Hi everyone, this is the YouTube and Facebook channels for SilverSilkOnline.com. Thank you for being here. I am Stephanie Reis with Maureen Bradley Designs, and today I am sharing with you a Day of the Dead inspired necklace design featuring the SilverSilk Gold Flat Mesh. Let's get started. Okay, so I have already laid out some of the items that I'm using to make this necklace, and I'll just go over them quickly. I'm using some sugar skulls. These are Czech beads, sugar skulls. Some metal components, and I brought out a few, just a little bit of a variety so that you can, do something similar. You might have something in your stash with these. I have picked out this piece and I added some paint to my piece. I have a clasp. Wasn't sure if I wanted a bright gold or a, I guess, antique gold. I have some SilverSilk Flat Mesh clamps. And I have various Czech beads, flowers, for this design. I have a butterfly Czech bead, a tassel, and I did bring out these round fluted orange Czech beads that look like pumpkins to me, and some green tiny squares that will go on top of my pumpkin. This is just like a candy corn drop that I had in my stash that I thought was really neat. You'll need let's see, some 5mm jump rings and some 4mm jump rings. You'll need the SilverSilk Flat Mesh. I'm using gold, and then you'll need some fireline. That's what I'm choosing to use. You could also use some fine gauge, maybe 26 or 28 gauge fine gauge gold wire. I'm also going to be using this multicolor artistic wire with brown, green, and gold. And this is for my pumpkin, to make the pumpkin, for the vine that goes around the pumpkin. And some tools you might need to do this necklace. I have chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, a pair of flush cutters, and you could use, I have these nylon coated pliers. Okay, so first to start, I am going to go ahead and tell you that I have already measured out a piece of gold flat mesh wire, this chain, excuse me, and I have made it about 24 inches. And then I have a shorter piece of gold mesh, flat mesh, it's about 6 inches. So I'm going to put that one to the side, and the first thing I want to do, I'm going to move a few of these things out of the way so that we can work. The first thing I want to do is to go ahead and I'm going to flatten my mesh here, and I'm going to go ahead and give one end, move my tools out of the way, I'm going to give one end a flat. I'm going to go ahead and put the crimp on it. So I'm just simply adding the mesh into the crimp. These have little notches in them, so it's going to grab onto my, let's see if I can get my fingers out of the way. I'm going to clamp this down, making sure my mesh is in there. Yep. And I'm just clamping down on it with my nylon jaw pliers, like so, both sides, and it's not going to come out. So I've gone ahead and done that, and I'm just making sure that my mesh is flat. All right. Here we go, because I want all my clamps to go the same way. And I'm going to go ahead and give my other piece a flat crimp as well. And my 6-inch piece. I'm going to put the crimps on both ends. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've added all my crimps to my gold mesh pieces. And now I want to measure for my sizing, because my class is going to be right here. And I wanted my necklace to be about 18 inches. And so my clasp is going to go here. And I'm going to be attaching this filigree piece that I have put paint on. And so it's going to go something like this on my metal piece. And so I want to measure, and I also want to mark where I'm going to be attaching my metal piece, like so. And I want to say my clasp is about a 1/2 inch. So yeah, about 1/2 inch in total. And I have my connector here, so that's going to go here, like so. And then I do want about 3 inches on my tassel part. And so I'm just sort of measuring where I'm going to be here. I think that's about good. And maybe a little bit down. This mesh is so slinky, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to keep that down, and I'm just measuring to make sure where my connection is going to go. And then I also want to mark on here. Let's see, I may have too much. So with my clasp, it's going to give me about, thinking about 18 inches. Maybe I need to come up a little bit. So I do want about 3 inches here. So I'll come down here a little bit. And that, by the time I get my clasp on, that should give me about 18 inches on my necklace. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my marker so that I can place, I'm going to be making my connections at the top here and at the bottom here. See if I can see that. You might have to come in a little bit to really give it a mark. And so that is where my connections are going to be made with my filigree piece. So now we can focus on our, I'm actually going to go ahead and add my toggle piece here. I'm going to take a 5mm jump ring, and I'm going to go ahead and add it. So that's already done. And I'm just opening it from front to back, never side to side. And I'm sliding my little toggle piece on. And I'm closing my jump ring. Get my fingers straight. And making sure I have a good connection where my jump ring is closed completely. So that part is done. So now we can focus on the pendant piece here. I'm going to be adding this sugar skull, and I want to put him here. And I'm also going to be adding this pink Czech flower bead, and also this blue or turquoise Czech flower. And then I have these really neat pink ones that I'm going to be adding at the top here, like so, to make my Day of the Dead inspired piece. So I will go ahead, that's what since I showed you what I'm going to be doing, we can go ahead and add our sugar skull. I'll show you how I do that. First, before I do that, I do want to let you know that I did paint this piece. The original piece was similar to this color, which is a dark antique bronze. And I did come in with Verdigris marble and Victorian gold patina paints. I believe these are no longer available. I think some are still selling them. If you can't find those types of paints, I believe the new line is called Colourful Soul, is what I want to say. And I just brushed on the paints with my paintbrush. I did turquoise first, then the white marble, and then the gold on top of it. And then I came in with my Vintaj buffing block, and if you can see this side, it's got like a fine grain sandpaper on it. I rubbed it down so that the gold and bronze would come back out, and then I shined it up with the bottom piece of this block. So that's how I made the color change on it, and I think it just looks beautiful with the flat mesh. So in order to add my skull, I need a beading needle, and today I'm going to be using some Fireline. This is some strong, and it's very thin wire, type wire, that is great. It's a super line for beading. So I'm going to unravel this piece. I want to say it is about 24 inches long, and I'm going to go ahead and flatten one end with my pliers. This will allow me to feed this part through my needle. Let's see, like so. Excuse me. And now I've got it in, and I can pull with my pliers. I'm just going to do about a 2-inch piece. And I want to come up from this bottom piece here. Yes, actually, let's see. I want it in the middle, and so actually I'm going to come up from this right in here, and I'm going to leave myself about a 3-inch tail. I'm going to feed my bead onto my needle, and I'm going to place my piece in the center of my metal filigree. And then I'm going to go down here. I guess I'm going to go down this side. If you can see, I'm feeding it through the metal lace of the piece. And then I'm going to come back up. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can show you. I'm going to come back up through this side so that it anchors it in place. And I'm just pulling it tight and making sure my piece is in the center. And then I want to feed my beading needle back through my bead, like so. And then I'm going to anchor it down on this side. I'm going to feed it through one of the holes next to the bead. And then I'm going to come back up. Through the metal, and then I'm going to go back through my bead one more time, such that I've gone through my bead, I think about, whoops, sorry, I got my strand caught on my pliers. It will have been about, I think, 3 times. And then I'm going to come back through on this side, and I want to end, I'm just catching this on everything. I want to end where my piece, where my cut end, I want to end here on this side. So I've come through, come on down again, and now we've got our sugar skull anchored in place. And we ended on this side. So now I'm going to clip away my Fireline, and as you can see, I've anchored it on this side of my bead and on this side of my bead. And now I'm going to do a surgeon's knot where I tie it in an overhand knot, super tight, and then I'm going to do another overhand knot where I come in and wrap 2 times, and that creates a surgeon's knot. And I'm going to pull on my strands so that they're super tight. And then I'm just going to clip those ends away, not right at the knot, but near it. Scissors work great too. Pushing those ends flat, and now I have my sugar skull in place. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my pink and turquoise pieces, saving my other flower for my connection to my silver silk. Remember, we mark them. I'm going to go ahead and finish that. Okay, so I am done with adding my sugar skull and my flowers to my filigree piece, and I do want to add, almost forgot about my pumpkin. So I want to add one of these pumpkins, a green cube, and I have a tassel here. And I did forget to mention that we will need some 22 gauge gold wire so that we can make our connection with the pumpkin. And I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to do a wire wrapped loop here to connect my tassel first. And I'm just going to open that a little so that I can feed my tassel on. And that little jump ring is got the split part up, so I'm turning that around and I'm adding my gold wire to my tassel, and I'm just going to hang on to both so that I can do a little wire wrap. I'm just going to wrap around twice, we don't need much. And then I'm going to clip that little stem away here, holding on to it so it doesn't fly off and hit me. And then I'm just going to straighten my loop here and tuck in. If there's still a little bit of an edge on your wire, you can tuck that in. And I'm just straightening it. I'm adding my pumpkin bead with my little stem there, and then I'm going to do another wrapped loop on top, and that wrapping of the loop will give you a little bit of space where we can come back in and add a little bit of a vine to our pumpkin. So I am just wrapping this around so. See how we have that space there, and I'm going to trim that little piece away, throw that in my scrap heap. I'm tucking in any little leftover wire that might be hanging out, and then I'm just making sure my loops are straight. Like so, and there's my little pumpkin tassel. And now I can come in with a little bit of, and I'll just straighten this with my nylon pliers. I'm going to just come in with about 6 inches of this brown, it's a brown, green, and gold wire, and about halfway on each side I'm going to come in and I'm going to just wrap around that gold piece, that gold stem there, with one side, and then I do want to make sure I've crisscrossed them in place like so. And then I will measure, let's see, about 3/4 of an inch on one side. It doesn't need to be much, so I'm going to trim that away. And I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to coil that wire around my round nose pliers. I'm making a little coil for this one, and then I'm bending it down, and then I'm going to pull it out. Oops. It came out enough. All right. There we go. And there's one side of my little vine. And now I want to do this side. I don't need it to be as long, so I'm going to do this side at about 1/2 inch. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to coil my wire around my round nose pliers, like so. And then I'm going to just bend it around like so, so that we've got two little viney pieces coming down off of my pumpkin. Come back around here. There we go. But I also don't want to cover my green pea too much. There we go. There we go. All right. So now I'm just going to attach my pumpkin with a 4mm jump ring. I'm going to attach it to my filigree. And I believe I would like it to go, I want it to stand out, so I think I'm going to do it right around here. And I've got to add that in. And it's going to be hopefully not too much of a bother. So I've just added it in to the little filigree there. And then I'm going to take my loop, and then I'm going to grab my other chain nose pliers. I probably have to do it the other way. And I'm going to close that loop. And there we go. It finally closed for me. And again, you just want to make sure that your jump ring is closed fully, because it is a little tricky. And then I'm just readjusting my vines here, because I'd want them to hang down the side. And there's my pendant. So now I want to come in and add my focal piece to my wire mesh. And in order to do that, I'm going to turn it this way, I think. And I'm going to place my wire mesh here so that it is centered on those holes, this hole at the top and this hole here, making sure you can see. So my mesh needs to go there, and you can always do the top piece first. So we are going to come in with our flower bead, our Czech flower bead, and we are going to anchor it to the mesh and to this metal filigree piece. So I have another piece of fire line that I'm going to be using. And again, I'm going to flatten the end of the fire line so that it's flat like so. I'm taking my beading needle and I'm going to add that flat part through the eye of the needle like so. And then I'm just going to pull it a little bit, leaving a little bit of a tail. And then I'm going to lift up the piece. And I'm going to hold where my mark is at the top here, and I want to come in through the flat mesh and go over the hole on the filigree piece, like so. So I'm just doing it close. I'm going to go into the center of the flat mesh. And again, I'm leaving about a 2.5 to 3 inch piece, and then I'm going to go over the metal piece and then down again through the mesh. I'm hoping you can see this. And then I'm going to come back up through the mesh on the opposite side. Like so. I'm anchoring my mesh into place. And then I'm going to go back down again through the mesh, over the metal piece, creating my connection and tightening the other side. And then I'm coming back up through the opposite side of the mesh. And I've done that twice. Now we can add our bead. I'm going to feed my bead through my needle, like so. I'm lifting it up again. And then where my connection is, as you can see, I'm going to find the hole in the mesh, not in the mesh. I'm going to make sure that my bead is aligned with my mesh, because see, my mesh is on the back. And we want to make sure we capture that with our bead, and we go through the hole as well, because that's what's going to anchor it in place. All right, let's see if I can show this. So I've got this up here, and I'm going to come through the metal piece. I'll show you the opposite side in just a sec. So I've gone through the metal and the mesh, and I'm going to come up on the opposite end where my other connection, where my bead is at. And I'm going to feed my fire line through my bead. So, and then again, I'm going down through the filigree and through the back to connect the mesh, like so. I'm going to come up again, go through the mesh, and I want to pass by one more time just to make sure my mesh is connected to my Czech bead and also the metal filigree. And then I've gone back down through, and I'm going to come up one more time but I'm not going to go through the bead. I only want to make my connection with the mesh. I'm going back down the mesh again so that I can tie my piece off in the back, like so. And I'm going to clip this off even. And I'm going to tie my knot here in place again, because now I have my connection with my flower bead. And I'm doing a surgeon's knot again. And then I usually take my pliers and pull on them, just so that I've got my knot secure in place and it won't come out. I'm trimming this close to my piece with my scissors. I think scissors clip it a little bit better than my cutters, like so. And now we have that side in place. And we want to connect this bottom half so that it stays in place, like so, and it's straight. I'm going to do the same thing on this side as we did here. So I have attached made my connection with my bottom piece. You could do a flower or seed beads, but you can see that both ends are attached to my metal piece. And now I'm going to finish with adding my clasp, my second tassel, and my charms. And now we are finished with our Day of the Dead inspired necklace. Okay, so I'm trying it on for you, and hopefully you can see all these little charms here that you can put, and I hope that I've inspired you to create your own focal piece that you can attach to some beautiful flat mesh, and I hope that you're inspired to create something beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of the week,